All right, Nick, let's talk about the South Carolina Gamecocks. A lot of good momentum for the Gamecocks. Shane Beamer's squad down in Columbia really making some noise, especially after they found their starting quarterback last year. Things really seem to be heading in the right direction for this team. NIL, tough thing to deal with, but it seems like the South Carolina Gamecocks really have a handle on it, have a handle on their players as well. I think this is an interesting story we're going to cover today. We'll get into that just a second here, but first, I'm Andrew, that's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, NIL is involved. This is a tough thing to deal with, especially in this day and age with so many teams having so much money thrown around. You have to have a strong culture and build a strong team to keep your star players because any and everybody is going to be around the corner trying to steal them away from you. And that was the case this offseason with the Gamecocks, especially with star quarterback LaNorris. People are worried, is someone going to try to come out, NIL, throw millions and millions of dollars at this guy and steal him away from the Gamecocks? And certainly they did try, but it did not work. And I think that's really great news for the Gamecocks. Let's get into the article here when we talk more about it on the other side. So this is from SI.com. It says, Seller's father says the quarterback was offered an NIL deal worth $8 million for over 2 years to leave the Gamecocks and go to their school. He said he was offered all kinds of crazy numbers. Seller's father told The Athletic. I told him he could say, I'm going to stay or I'm going to go buy my 2 cents. But my 2 cents was to get into college on a scholarship, play ball, get our degree, and get on about our business. This NIL deal came later. We didn't come here to make money. We came here to get our education, play ball, and with schools calling, we're not going to jump ship because they're offering more than what we're getting. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. There are several talks, but it never really crossed his mind to leave. First of all, I love the way that his dad's going about this. Sometimes we hear stories about, family members, people pushing people to, hey, go ahead and leave school, go get more money. But his dad's saying, hey, these guys offer you before the NIL was there. They took you here. You're really here to go to school, play football, and move on to the next phase of your life. You're not here just to get some quick cash. Let's do things the right way. And I think it shows. I think it shows his integrity. And I think it shows just especially what's building at South Carolina. The fact that someone was offering this guy $8 million as a young kid, 18, 19, 20-year-old kid, someone offered you $8 million to leave and go play at their school. Most people would take that. I'd be hard pressed. I know you too, Nick. Hard pressed not to go take that money and go play. But he doesn't. He stays here because of how special what Shane Beamer is building here with the Gamecocks. And I have a chart showing just that. Let's bring it up and we can talk about it here a little bit. This shows the Gamecocks and just overall the trajectory this team is on, how things are shaking out. And it kind of shows where they were in the recruiting rankings versus where their wins were from the season before, because we all know the recruiting rankings, kind of lag. The wins you got the previous season are what affects the recruiting rankings of the next year. So 2023's wins affects the 2024 recruiting class. So here we have the chart in front of us. The higher the bars go, the worse the recruiting rank is. You want the number to be lower, but opposite for your wins the previous year, obviously. So we see here for the Gamecocks, we have 7 wins for the previous year, 2021, giving them a mid-20s, 24th overall recruiting ranking. Then we see a little bit of a spike. 8 wins again, 2 years of decent wins for the Gamecocks. Recruiting rankings rise. Spencer Rattler's there. A lot of good stuff is going on at the school. They get up into 16th in the rankings. Then the following year, 5 wins for the Gamecocks. Not a great year that year. In 2024, they go back down to 22nd in the recruiting rankings. In comes LaNorris Sellers. They get 9 wins, the most they had in this 4-year stretch so far, and already recruiting rankings rebounding back up to 18. And what would happen if LaNorris Sellers leaves? I think that recruiting rank goes down in 2026. We're not going to see continued success, but the fact that this guy stays at the school, they're able to continue building with their core pieces. Whatever Shane Beamer is developing in Columbia is something special, and money being thrown at star players does not affect them. I think that's really, really important here and just shows it will continue to keep this team springboarding in the right direction as far as getting better recruits, getting more wins, getting things to go in the right direction for this team. I think it's going to be something special brewing down in Columbia. Curious what your thoughts are on this one, Nick. But before we get to you, Gamecock fans, in the comment section below, we're talking about the quarterback position. Talked about South Carolina Gamecocks. A couple notable guys throughout history. I'm a big Connor Shaw guy, but Tannehill is great as well. Just let us know in Gamecocks history, who was your favorite quarterback with this team throughout history? Let us know favorite Gamecock quarterback of all time and maybe a little bit of why they were your favorite as well in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on this latest out of South Carolina?
So I think people have to understand the context of this and why it really matters. And I don't want to be negative to Carolina Gamecocks fans, but the reality is, in the history of the SEC, South Carolina has always been a second-rate team, right? That's just the truth. I'm not trying to be mean, but you've got, even if they've had down years, the Georgias and Floridas and Tennessees have been considered just a notch higher than South Carolina. I don't think this necessarily has to be the case, but it's just historically what has been. But when you have what is occurring with LaNorris Sellers and what Shane Beamer has done and the talent elevation, and we covered this a couple weeks ago, how the recruiting baseline level of talent for Carolina is at the same level it was during that Spurrier, three season run, where we had 3 straight 11-win seasons. This is a team that's on the upswing, and they're getting better and better and better, and they are clearly emerging as a force in the SEC. No one is paying attention to them right now. They finished the year on a high note, and a lot of people said, hey, it's a great story, cool, and we don't really care. We're on to the next thing. But I think the reality is this South Carolina Gamecocks team under Beamer, it's been a process. It's had some ups, it's had some downs, it's had some things that look really good, it's had things that look really, really ugly, but it is undeniable to a man, from Beamer, the AD, to the water boy, LaNorris Sellers, his dad, and everyone in between, they all believe this can be a special team. Let's go back to the example I said a second ago about how Tennessee historically has been a notch better than South Carolina in the SEC. Tennessee had a young star quarterback. What did he do? He left for more NIL money. The Georgia Bulldogs had a star quarterback, Carson Beck. He left for more NIL money. Two former SEC East dead rivals to the Carolina Gamecocks. More traditional, at least historically, blue bloods than what the team in Columbia has been. But you compare what has happened, those two programs, those quarterbacks, to what's happening in South Carolina, and we're seeing a total seismic flip. This is a new era, folks. And I think people need to understand that as talented as Georgia still remains and as talented as Tennessee remains, the momentum, the energy is 100% behind the Gamecocks. And like I mentioned a second ago, and like we've covered a lot this offseason, the overall talent level for Carolina is accelerating in the positive direction too. Now, I don't want to get too over my skis. We got to see how things shake out on Saturdays. Football is going to be tough. The SEC is brutal. The schedule is not necessarily the easiest one in the world, obviously so. But what we're seeing to a man, data, reports, teammates, coaches, teammates, dads, across the board, there is undeniable, irrefutable momentum behind the South Carolina Gamecocks program. This is a team that we're not talking about winning 10 games. We're not talking about winning 11 games. This is a team that could win a national championship this season, folks. And now, look, I understand they're not the favorite, and there's a lot of football to go, and a lot of things can happen. It could go really bad, really south, too, right? That could happen. But when you look at this momentum, this much energy, the fact that Tennessee's young star quarterback left for NIL money, Georgia's quarterback left for NIL money, you cannot deny there is something special in Carolina when the two comparisons in the old SEC East both had their quarterbacks leave for millions of dollars, and the guy in Columbia stayed. There is something special right now. Again, I don't know how many times I can caveat this. I'm not trying to predict them to go undefeated and run the table. But I think when you see these indications early, it is pointing to something, folks. We don't see all this corroborating evidence, which we talk about all the time on this channel. We love corroborating evidence. What does the data say? What does the media say? What are the players and coaches saying? What are the external sources like a player's dad saying? What are all these reports? And you can look at all of those different things, the data, the analytics, the coaches, the players, the external sources, and you try and put together a picture of what's really going on, right? If you just listen to ESPN or Fox Sports, you're getting one kind of 30-minute high-level view that's probably wrong about each one of these programs. But when you aggregate all these data points, you come up with one clear, undeniable fact that this South Carolina team is building a lot of momentum. They are a sleeping giant that's about to explode. We'll have to see what happens. I'm going to throw that caveat out one more time, but I cannot ignore what is going down in Columbia right now. It is the emergence of something special, I believe, for the Gamecocks.
Yeah, Nick, and I think when you took this evidence and we talk about what this team is able to do, I think there's one really great comparison, one that Gamecocks fans will not like, but I think it's a really good comparison. An in-state team, also, we hated rival Clemson Tigers. So let's get out of the way. A team that Gamecock fans love to hate, the Clemson Tigers. We can't deny they've had more success in the recent past as far as winning national championships, being a team that breaks the wall, breaks the, that's a competitive team in South Carolina. They're, not really that big in the ACC. They broke out, they got to be big, and they got to be now, guys that are a name in that conference. They're like guys that are always on the Heisman watch. Cade Klubnik, love him or hate him. People talk about this could be a guy that's first round draft pick. This is a team that is very reminiscent of that. I think Spencer Rattler was the Taj Boyd for South Carolina, the guy to get things started. Didn't really do a whole lot, but we saw what good at the quarterback position could do. And I definitely don't like this comparison, but nonetheless, here it is. This is their Deshaun Watson. Now, LaNorris Sellers, not morally, but skill-wise on the field, LaNorris Sellers is Deshaun Watson, the guy that is talented enough to take this team to the next level and, like you said, break that national, get them into the college football playoffs, break that national championship barrier here for the Gamecocks. I think we're at that stage. Clemson was on their meteoric rise. They had a guy to really get it started. I think that was Spencer Rattler showing, all right, good quarterbacks are wanting to come to South Carolina. There's a lot of good stuff about him. Maybe the team wasn't quite enough to get good enough to get the job done yet, but something started to get the ball rolling. Now enter in LaNorris Sellers. This is the guy that is the catalyst to help get things done, get them to the big show, and potentially win a national championship for this team. So I love what you say about that. I'm on the same page with you here. I think something special is happening down in Columbia, and I think, like you said, we got to see the play on the field, but something special is brewing with LaNorris Sellers and the Gamecocks.